Kaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadabhayam Tadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Patakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Vishya Shri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Swavadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Sapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanushrute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vachakalpatarubhyascha Kirpa Sindhubhayevcha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, you're on mute.
Sorry, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shashwin, for reciting the wonderful Mangalacharan. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept our humble obeisances. Danvat pranam to you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
For mine. Oh, glories to Prabhupada. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Prabhuji, I'm in a different place, in a real good place. I'm at the center at the moment.
Oh, wow.
So I'm feeling truly blessed, but I've forgotten my reading glasses. So, but that's okay. We'll manage.
You live near the center?
So it's just 5 minutes away. Yes.
Wow.
Yes,
nice.
Yeah. Okay. So, Prabhuji, we are reading the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and we are on chapter 17. Chapter 17 is the division of faith, and we are on text 4 today. So Prabhuji will recite the shloka and the word to word and the translation, and then would you like us to read the purport as well, Prabhuji?
I don't mind reading it. I don't mind.
Okay, so we'll do the first 3 and then we'll hand over to you, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Okay, fine. So, Shashwin, would you like to recite the shloka, please?
Yes, Hare Krishna. Yajante satvika devad yaksha raksham srirajasa pretad bhuta ganabhyarye yajanti tabasa jagada.
Hare Krishna. Lata Mataji, kindly do the word to word.
Okay, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Yajante,
Yajante,
worship.
worship.
Satvika,
Satvika,
those who are in the mood of goodness.
those who are in the mode of goodness.
Devan,
Devan,
demigods.
demigods.
Yaksharakshamsi,
Yaksha Rakshamshi,
demons.
demons.
Rajashaha,
Rajashaha,
those who are in the mood of passion.
those who are in the mode of passion.
Tretan,
Pretan,
spirits of the dead.
spirits of the dead.
Bhutaganan,
Bhutaganan,
ghosts.
ghosts.
Cha,
Cha,
and
and
Anye,
Anye,
others.
others.
Yajante,
Yajante,
worship.
worship.
Tamashaha,
Tamashaha,
in the mood of ignorance.
in the mode of ignorance.
Janaha,
Janaha,
people.
people.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much. I'll read the translation. Men in the mode of goodness worship the demigods. Those in the mode of passion worship the demons. And those in the mode of ignorance worship ghosts and spirits. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, over to you, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
In this verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead describes different kinds of worshippers according to their external activities. According to scriptural injunction, only the Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipable. But those who are not very conversant with or faithful to the scriptural injunctions worship different objects according to their specific situations in the modes of material nature. Those who are situated in goodness generally worship the demigods. The demigods include Brahma, Shiva, and others such as Indra, Chandra, and the sun god. There are various demigods. Those in goodness worship a particular demigod for a particular purpose. Similarly, those who are in the mode of passion worship the demons. We recall that during the Second World War, a man in Calcutta worshipped Hitler because thanks to that war, he had amassed a large amount of wealth by dealing in the black market. Similarly, those in the modes of passion and ignorance generally select a powerful man to be God. They think that anyone can be worshipped as God and that the same results will be obtained. Now, it is clearly described here that those who are in the mode of passion worship and create such gods, and those who are in the mode of ignorance, in darkness, worship dead spirits. Sometimes people worship at the tomb of some dead man. Sexual service is also considered to be in the mode of darkness. Similarly, in remote villages in India, there are worshippers of ghosts. We have seen that in India, the lower class people sometimes go to the forest, and if they have knowledge that a ghost lives in a tree, they worship that tree and offer sacrifices. These different kinds of worship are not actually God worship. God worship is for persons who are transcendently situated in pure goodness. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 4.3.23, it is said, Sattva Vishuddham Vasudeva Sabditam. When a man is situated in pure goodness, he worships Vasudev. The purport is that those who are completely purified of the material modes of nature and who are transcendently situated can worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The impersonalists are supposed to be situated in the mode of goodness, and they worship 5 kinds of demigods. They worship the impersonal Vishnu form in the material world, which is known as philosophized Vishnu. Vishnu is the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the impersonalists, because they do not ultimately believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, imagine that the Vishnu form is just another aspect of the impersonal Brahman. Similarly, they imagine that Lord Brahma is the impersonal form in the material mode of passion. Thus, they sometimes describe 5 kinds of gods that are worshipable, but because they think that the actual truth is impersonal Brahman, they dispose of all worshipable objects at the ultimate end. In conclusion, the different qualities of the material modes of nature can be purified through association with persons who are of transcendental nature. Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So here Arjuna was asking in this chapter regarding the faith of different people, different types of people, and Krishna is describing this according to the modes of material nature. And it's a wonderful chapter describing all the different modes of material nature. What can we take from this? There's lots going on in the purport. And one thing we can see that people are worshipping the Supreme Lord. Some people worship demigods. Some people worship Hitler. Some people worship ghosts and spirits. But one thing that is obvious is that people are looking to worship someone. There is a need to worship. We have this. You look at human beings. There's a desire to idolize and worship, and we see this throughout humanity. My father worships Narendra Modi. He's always following Narendra Modi. Where is Modi giving a speech? Where, he says to me, Kunal, yes, Dad, yes. Modi's come to Glasgow. He says, oh, really? Yeah. Now Modi's gone to Delhi. Oh, really? It's like, where is, literally, in one sense, it's like worship. In one sense, it's like worship. You speak, when I was a young child or a teenager, I would worship the football players that were scoring all the goals in for the team I was supporting. And literally, it's like you're worshiping them. You go to the ground, you sing their name. When they come near you, you're like doing this, you're literally worshiping them. In India, many people have pictures of cricket players on their altar, and they're worshiping them, literally offering incense to cricket players. So one thing that is apparent is worship is something that humans want. Actually, when we think about when Srila Prabhupada left ISKCON, well, not left ISKCON, left this world and left ISKCON to the rest of us, we could say. So when Prabhupada left the world and handed over, in one sense, the ISKCON society to his disciples and grand disciples and all of us, the future generations, which is all of us. What happened? Yes, we all know there was a big controversy. Yes, we all know it was a difficult time for ISKCON. But why? Because the devotees needed someone to worship. So the young devotees became acharyas and they became gurus. And yes, it may not have worked out, but the problem was, the need and desire of the people was, we need someone to worship. We need to worship. So worship is very, very, very much part of our psyche. We do it, whether we know it or we don't. I have an uncle, he worships rich people. Whoever's rich, I can see he's worshipping them. It's like he's talking about them as if they're like friends. A lot of people in England worship the Prime Minister here. Maybe in Kenya, they're worshipping the president over there. So in different, you have to have a picture on the wall, isn't it? In every building in Kenya, there has to be a picture. Why? Because in one sense, what we're saying is we're trying to get the people to worship the leader. Just by having the picture, the energy of the, whenever there's a picture, the energy of that person is there. So what they're doing in the Kenyan constitution, in one sense, is creating an energy by having the picture of the president in every single building. It's a legal requirement, isn't it? So worship is very, and I remember actually when I was a young child, and I would even talk about it. I don't know if it's the case now, but if I'd talk about, oh, look, that's the president, my uncles would say to me, no, don't say, something can happen to you if you say something about the president or anything, So it's very, hopefully I'm not getting anyone in trouble by giving this class and someone's looking around. Is someone from the government about to walk in? Anyway, apologies if I'm creating any problems, but I just thought of that. But the reality is that worship is part of us. Worship is part of us. It's part of us. And we're taught as young children to begin some sort of worship, whether we're worshiping Bill Gates, or we're worshiping Steve Jobs, or we're worshiping a saintly person. Worship is there. So it's up to us to direct that worship in the correct place. It's up to us to direct that worship in the correct place. So how do we direct our worship in the correct place? Well, we need to use our intelligence. The first thing is, let's use our intelligence. Let's systematically use our intelligence to understand where is the right place for me to deposit my heart, which requires someone worshipable. We're worshiping all the time, so it requires someone worshipable. Who should I offer that respect to? Who should I look up to? Who should be that person who I look up to? Now, luckily for us, we have Srila Prabhupada. You know, it's like we don't have to think so much anymore, because Prabhupada proved everything to us. He proved it all because he created magic. In the history of the world, nothing can compare to what Srila Prabhupada did. Just because the media don't advertise it, we don't realize the greatness of it. But if the media advertised every single day something about what Srila Prabhupada did and how magically in 10 years, 11 years, it's such a short period of time, he's affected so many people in such dramatic ways in just 10 or 11 years. What Prabhupada did is nothing short of a miracle. And Prabhupada managed to do that because he's a Nitya Siddha. Prabhupada is a pure devotee, a devotee who's come directly from the spiritual world to propagate Krishna consciousness and then go back to the spiritual world. That was his purpose of coming here. So Prabhupada, the Nitya Siddha, came here. He spread Krishna consciousness like no one has ever spread any type of religion before, and went back to the spiritual world. And we can see it's actually magical. It's magical. How can someone take kartal, sit under a tree, chant Hare Krishna, and create what has been created now all around the world? How does such a thing, how can you go to Africa, America, Australia, Asia, and actually get people willing to dedicate their lives to spread the propagation of the holy names? It's actually a miracle. But because a pure devotee is coming with the Shakti of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can do this. And that's why for us, it's very easy to worship Srila Prabhupada, because we've seen that actually he's worshipable. Why? Because he's a spiritual master. He's the spiritual master of ISKCON. He's the founder Acharya of our society, and he is the preeminent Shiksha Guru for all of us. So for us, because we've understood who is Srila Prabhupada, we can worship him. It's up to us to educate others about what Srila Prabhupada did. It's up to us to help others understand what Srila Prabhupada did. It's up to us to help others with their doubts about worshipping Srila Prabhupada. And I'm sure we all had doubts about worshipping Prabhupada. I remember I used to walk into the temple, ignore Prabhupada, go straight to Krishna, and walk straight back out. Why? Because I was like, who's that guy? Okay, he started the temple, big deal. You know, it's like we're so kind of, but what happens after some time, we get educated, because devotees take some time and they educate us regarding what Srila Prabhupada did and regarding who Srila Prabhupada is. I remember I used to ask devotees, why do we worship Prabhupada? Why are we turning our back to Krishna and doing Guru Puja to Srila Prabhupada? Why did Prabhupada teach us to worship him? Was he arrogant? I used to ask all these questions. But then in time, as we practice the process, we realize that Srila Prabhupada taught us to worship the spiritual master and worship him because it's good for us. It's good for us. It opens up our heart, worshipping the spiritual master, especially worshipping Srila Prabhupada, the preeminent Shiksha Guru for ISKCON. So what does this mean, that Srila Prabhupada is the preeminent Shiksha Guru? It means that Prabhupada is always going to be the leader or the head of the Krishna consciousness movement as it propagates around the world over the next 10,000 years during the Golden Age. That's what Srila Prabhupada set up. He set up a society, he institutionalized the society so that for the Golden Age, the next 10,000 years, Krishna consciousness can spread. And as Krishna consciousness spreads, there will need to be a leader. There needs to be a head of that society. So the head of that society is Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada established things in such a way that we can go on generation after generation after generation, being satisfied in serving the institution because the head is still Srila Prabhupada. And how can we associate with Srila Prabhupada? How can we really take to the teachings of Srila Prabhupada? The way we can take to the teachings of Srila Prabhupada is associating with Srila Prabhupada through the words in his books. Through the words in his books. Through the words in Srila Prabhupada's books, we're directly associating with Srila Prabhupada. That's how we're connecting with Prabhupada. That's what's actually giving Srila Prabhupada to us. Yes, Srila Prabhupada is coming to us through, he's described his purports as his devotional ecstasies. So we wouldn't understand the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita if Prabhupada didn't take so much time and write these books. It's, again, if you think about it, how many books did he write? Like in such a short time, like he went with a few volumes of the Bhagavatam when he left India to come to America, but then everything else he wrote during those 10 years. So he set up a society, he's opened up temples all around the world, he's made disciples all around the world, and he's written all these books after he turned 70. I mean, it's not, it doesn't seem humanly possible. When Prabhupada knew the urgency, but even though he knew the urgency, even though he was getting old, one thing Prabhupada did was he prepared himself. He went to Vrindavan and prepared himself. So this is a very great lesson that we can learn. Prepare ourselves well before going out to fight the battlefield. Prabhupada went to Vrindavan. He didn't think, oh my God, I'm in my 60s. There's no time. I've got to just go there now. I've got to go to the West now. No, he spent time in Vrindavan. He spent time absorbing himself. And then when Krishna arranged the right time, when the American society was all in chaos because of the Vietnam War, Krishna arranged for Prabhupada to travel and go to the West. And when he gets to the West, when Prabhupada gets to the West, when an Indian person goes to the West for the first time, what happens? Oh, look at this building. Oh, this is so nice. Look at this, look at that. You know, we get so excited. Oh, like we get so excited. You see Indians coming to the West for the first time, and you just see how their life just lights up because they see all these different buildings and all this kind of thing. Prabhupada gets to the West, he's walking around, and when he writes his diary, he says, this place is totally engrossed in the lower modes of material nature. He could just see it for what it was. He wasn't so impressed. Oh, this big statue here, this big building here, this nice Costa and Starbucks. He didn't get so impressed with all these things. Now, but he just said, oh, this place is totally engrossed in the lower modes of material nature. He could just see that actually this is what he saw the world through the eyes of the Shastra Chakshush. He saw what was being offered through the eyes of the scriptures. So this is our lesson. Prabhupada, he came here, he set up ISKCON for us to have an opportunity to take part in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. The Chaitanya Charitamrita is the propagation of Krishna's holy names. And what's happening now, as Krishna consciousness spreads throughout the world more and more and more, we're taking part in Mahaprabhu's Leela. We're taking part in the distribution of Krishna consciousness, which Lord Chaitanya started. He went all around India, and all around distributing Krishna Prem through propagating the chanting of the holy names. So this is what we're doing. It's not just a funfair ride. When we go on Harinam, we're not going on Harinam because it's a good laugh. Yes, it is a good fun. It's really good fun. It's amazing, actually. But we're going because we're actually taking part in Lord Chaitanya's Leela. It's actually magnificent. We were on Harinam on Saturday night, and we were going around and chanting and dancing. And I was just thinking, every single person I'm looking at, that I'm smiling at, I'm giving fist pumps, we're just going around. And every time we're having an interaction with someone, and it doesn't have to be a long conversation. It could just be a smile. It could just be a fist pump. It could just be a thumbs up. It could just be a wink, But every time we're having an interaction, the super soul in my heart is connecting to the super soul in their heart. Those that are getting attracted to the holy name, they are getting attracted to the dancing of the devotees, the chanting, they are becoming, the sukriti and piety is increasing like anything. Why? Because they are now appreciating devotees, they are now appreciating the holy name, they are now appreciating the spreading of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. So when someone starts appreciating, what happens? They are now becoming ripe. The fruit is becoming ripe. So then what happens next is they might see a devotee on the streets distributing a book. And they'll be like, oh, you're the guys that chant and dance. Oh, yeah, let's take a book. Then they take a book. Then the book might sit on the shelf. They might not even read it, but someone will read the book. And when that someone reads the book, someone's life can change. Someone's life can change. Why? Because the book is written by an eternal associate of the Lord. Someone who's associating with the Lord right now. We're here, Prabhupada's with Krishna right now. Isn't it like, whoa, like right now, Prabhupada's with Krishna. Amazing, isn't it? It's amazing. Right now, our real family is waiting for us. We're here. It's like, they're kind of thinking, oh, when will he come back? Who's in that person's coming back? But we're here and they're there. And Prabhupada's there. So Prabhupada has come to give us this most amazing opportunity to take up Krishna consciousness and spread Krishna consciousness. When we spread Krishna consciousness, we're becoming more Krishna conscious ourselves. How is that possible? Because a devotee doesn't always just think of his own salvation. A devotee thinks of the salvation of those around him. If we think of Maharaj Parikshit, he's sitting, he's about to take guidance from Shukadev Goswami, but what's happening? He's with so many sages. Everyone comes to know, oh, Parikshit Maharaj has come at the bank of the Ganga. Let's go there. He's about to leave his body. So all these different sages from all different schools of thought come there. And they're all giving their different interpretations about what one should do when someone's about to leave their body. They're all giving. And while Shukadev Goswami is telling Maharaj Parikshit about chanting the holy name, while Shukadev Goswami is telling Parikshit Maharaj about hearing Krishna Katha, Parikshit Maharaj is not just concerned about himself. He's thinking about all the sages around him. And he's thinking, actually, if all these sages around me, if they don't believe in Krishna, how are they going to benefit? So what did he do? He started to ask questions about Ashtanga Yoga. He starts to ask questions about how a yogi can attain salvation. Why? He asks these questions for the benefit of those that were around him. I mean, how selfless. He has 7 days to live. He could be forgiven for just thinking of himself. I mean, if you've got 7 days to live, you'd want all your family to concentrate on your last 7 days, because you'll be like, hold on, after 7 days, you can do what you like. But for 7 days, just arrange everything in such a way that I can become as Krishna conscious as possible and hopefully leave this world in the most Krishna conscious way. You wouldn't be worried too much about, oh, did they do this and did they do that? Because we'll be just focusing on going back to Godhead. But Maharaj Parikshit in his last 7 days wasn't just thinking about his salvation, he was thinking about the salvation of those around him. He was asking questions to Shukadev Goswami for the benefit of those around him. Srila Prabhupada left Vrindavan to come to America, not to get name and fame as the starter of a movement. Srila Prabhupada left India to come to America and around the world with just one pure intention, and that pure intention was to save all of us. When we go to the temple and we look at the deities, we can actually appreciate that if Srila Prabhupada never left Vrindavan, the deities wouldn't be there and we wouldn't be there. And what kind of life would we be living? I was thinking recently, I started coming to the temple in 2001 and I'm born in 1981. So the 20 years before, so when I was 20 when I started going to the temple. So the 20 years before before I started coming to the temple, and the 20 years since coming to the temple, so it's like 2 halves. And I think to myself, if I never came, if Prabhupada never came, then I'd have nowhere to go. And if I had nowhere to go, where would my life have gone? Like, what would have happened? And it just feels really scary, actually, what would have happened. But Prabhupada, he knew that in Kali Yuga, there's just so many souls, there's so many souls that would just waste away in this material nature and actually be very miserable and actually just suffer like anything, suffer so much that they need to intoxicate themselves just to get some relief from that suffering, suffer so much that one just needs to explode in different ways, fighting and eating and hitting and sex life and all these different things just to get some relief from the pains and miseries of this material world. But Prabhupada, he came, he knew exactly the problem, and he did this for all of us. So for us, we have nowhere else to go when we need to think about who shall we worship. It's nature. Worship is there. You're going to worship a football player, a cricket player, a prime minister, a president, the head of Google, the head of Microsoft, Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. We're going to worship someone, some music stars. Have you seen my cousin? I have a cousin. My God, I remember when we were kids, she used to worship Michael Jackson. Now, when I say worship Michael Jackson, she'd have a Michael Jackson pendant. You know, she'd have Michael Jackson pictures, Michael Jackson t-shirt, everything Michael Jackson. She'd wherever Michael Jackson's traveling, America, this, that, she'd be on the plane traveling. Where's his concert? Literally just following him around, you know? Why? It's called worship. When he's just because he's going to wave out of his balcony, thousands of people are gathering, Michael, 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 and they're gathering just to worship a singer. So worship is there, but for us, we don't need to look any further. We don't need to look anywhere. Who to worship? Worship Srila Prabhupada. And the great thing is that whoever we are initiated by, whoever is our guru, or whoever we are aspiring to take initiation from, they will also tell us the same thing. Worship Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is the founder Acharya. He's the preeminent Shiksha Guru of ISKCON. Once my spiritual master said, and I'll never forget it, he said, when you're too close to a mountain, you cannot tell how big the mountain is. And he was saying that actually Jesus became famous many, many, many years after Jesus left. That's when Jesus started to become famous. When Jesus just left the planet, it wasn't so famous actually. So he said, for us, Srila Prabhupada just came. Srila Prabhupada just came 50 years ago. Actually, Prabhupada left this world 44 years ago. So Srila Prabhupada just left the planet. So because we're so close to the mountain, we're so close to the pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, we cannot tell how great Srila Prabhupada actually is, because we're so close to his pastime. But as years go on, my spiritual master was saying Srila Prabhupada is going to be more famous than Jesus. So this is the personality that we are associating with. This is the personality whose books we're reading, the personality who we are worshipping to Guru Puja every day, the personality who is totally worthy of our worship. So, yes, the Krishna is talking about men in different modes, worship demigods or demons or ghosts. But for us, the devotees, we worship the pure devotees. And for us, we know our founder Acharya is where our heart can be given. And that will please Krishna more than anything. Offering our heart, our love, our body, mind, and words to the service of Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON is the most pleasing thing to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So we'll stop here. Thank you so much for your kind attention. And if anyone has any comments or questions, please do feel free to share. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for a wonderful, amazing class. And for me, it's a different experience today, totally, because of the environment I'm in. Richa has her first question. Richa, kindly unmute and ask your question. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, Richa. You are breaking up as well. So,
Can you hear me now? Hare
yes,
Krishna.
much better now. Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisances. As I am very new, I don't really know much about Srila Prabhupada. But of course, it felt really good hearing about someone who you've been like told to worship, but you don't know why you're worshiping. You're always thinking like, why? What did he do? Where did all this even come from? It's like you're lost. You don't know the history of ISKCON because you were not born in ISKCON. I had this question that when we talk about worshipping, it also brings a certain type of effect of culture when we choose to worship who we are worshipping. So basically, like if I take just a random example of me, so I come from a Brahmin Rudra Parampara family where Lord Shiva is the top head god that we worship. He's our Ishtadev and he's like the main god that we worship. So not that we don't consider Krishna, but like Lord Shiva comes in the top because it's culture now. So when I see ISKCON sometimes, it feels like that worship sometimes is very much dominated by the culture. So is it reality that really culture matters so much when it comes to worshipping or adapting to something that you are not really used to. Because I don't yet know the main reason why Srila Prabhupada left India to preach in America, because basically the whole concept of worship of Krishna is related to the land of India, because India has given the most spiritual life evidences so far till today. So is it because Srila Prabhupada couldn't really feel that Indians were adapting, or they were open to Krishna consciousness because of, again, culture dominating it, so he decided to go to America? Or I don't understand this whole concept of culture and worshipping and Srila Prabhupada leaving India. So I think that this is my question. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Is it
Krishna.
even understandable?
Yes, no, thank you, Richa. I really appreciate your questions. Really, really nice of you to ask. Very sincere question. So Srila Prabhupada, I can think of like two main reasons. One thing is when Srila Prabhupada first met his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he first met his spiritual master, the first instruction that his spiritual master gave to him was, why don't you go to the West and preach Krishna consciousness to the English-speaking world? So, so one thing is that he was following the instruction of his guru. So that's one thing that's very important, is that we follow the order of our spiritual master. And his spiritual master told him to spread Krishna consciousness to the English-speaking world. And secondly, why did he go to America? Well, one, he went because it's English speaking, but the other thing is, yes, he did try to set up the Krishna consciousness movement in India first. So his original plan was actually to set up or to initiate the movement in India and then take devotees with him and go to the West. But what happened, like you said, Richa, is that it wasn't happening. The Indians were not forthcoming. It wasn't happening. It was, for one reason or the other, it didn't start to go the way Srila Prabhupada had desired. So then Srila Prabhupada went on his own. And he said one thing, that the thing is with the Indians, is that Indians always copy the Westerners. So he went to the West, he made lots of devotees, and then he brought them all back to India. And then what happened? Prabhupada brought all these white-bodied Americans back to India for preaching in India. And lots of people, you see, in India, everyone's after cheap miracles. You know, like, oh, can you create some ash from your hand? Or, you know, Indians want to see some sort of magic. And if you can show some sort of magic, they take you to be God. Not everyone, but this was just the general society at the time. So Prabhupada was asked, what is your miracle? What miracle can you do? And Prabhupada said, these dancing white elephants, these American boys and girls who are dancing and chanting the holy name of Krishna is his miracle. And then what's happened since is that the Krishna consciousness movement in India is still rapidly taking off. It's like a rocket, and it's going like anything. So it was all part of the Lord's plan to send Srila Prabhupada to America and then bring everyone from America to India. And then the Indians wanted to copy what the Westerners are doing. And now everyone is convinced. And now it's actually harder to spread the mission in the West than it is in India. In India, it's actually happening very, very rapidly. But in the West, it's a lot more harder work. So yeah, that's a few points. I'm not sure if I fully answered your question, Richa. Is there anything that I've missed out or left out in terms of answering your question? Because there was a few points you were making.
Yeah, I think so far my one doubt has been cleared, but the second one that has been pending is that, does culture affect your worship? And if it does,
what do you mean by that? Can you just give me a bit more on what do you mean by, does culture affect your worship?
As I give an example of me, that I come from a cultural background where
Right.
we follow the hymns or the fruitive language of Vedas,
Yeah.
that you have to perform this ritual, this yagya,
Yeah.
this to attain this. So now, but when we want to come to ISKCON, we have to stop that. But that doesn't mean that we were wrong because we were following our culture. We were not it's something that has been carried on in a form of a hierarchy.
Yeah. No, I
So
that's a good point, Richa. I think you see, one thing is that with Lord Shiva, like you're saying, as he's been described in the Bhagavatam, Vaishnavanam Yatta Shambhu. Lord Shiva is the greatest Vaishnava. So Lord Shiva is held in great respect by all devotees of Lord Krishna. So what does this mean? Actually, we shouldn't be, I wouldn't say that when we first come to ISKCON that we should stop doing everything. Actually, I think when we first come to ISKCON, we should add Krishna to our life. Just add Krishna, and if you're doing any other sort of worship, don't feel forced or pressured to stop that ritual or to stop the worship of Lord Shiva. I don't think that's necessary. I think what's most important is that you add Krishna to your life and then see where that worship takes you. And what usually happens is, naturally, the super soul and Lord Shiva will naturally guide you to say, actually, by worshipping Krishna, you're worshipping me anyway, because everything that goes to Krishna ends up, any worship, we can say, any worship that goes to Lord Krishna is complete. There's no more, we don't have to do anything more. And any worship that is done is performed for Lord Krishna is fully satisfying. So yes, culture can come into it, but I wouldn't try and prematurely try and stop any cultural worship. That if we're worshipping Lord Shiva, actually I've known many devotees who are worshippers of Lord Shiva, and because they are very sincere worshippers of Lord Shiva, because they are so sincere in their worship, because they've got such a good heart and they're worshipping Lord Shiva with such a good heart, Lord Shiva guides them to Krishna. And maybe, Richa, that's why you're here. Maybe you've been doing this worship through your family in such a nice, sincere way that Lord Shiva is guiding you to his Lord. And his Lord is Narayan. His Lord is Krishna himself. So I think it's a very nice journey you're on. I've seen many devotees, actually, Lord Shiva worshippers, who have been guided to ISKCON by Lord Shiva himself. I hope that makes sense.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. It really makes a lot of sense. If you don't mind, can I please ask you one more last question?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Is ISKCON referred as a cultural society, a religion, or an international thing where everyone is welcome?
Yeah, it's for anyone and everyone. That's why in Eldoret, where are you based, Richa?
Nairobi.
So you're in Nairobi. When you go to the temple in Gara, you'll see that it's not just Indians, there's also Africans that are chanting and dancing. So that's why that's why Prabhupada created the International Society, so that everyone around the world can take part in this, because Hare Krishna needs no translation. You want to say Hare Krishna in English, in Swahili, in Gujarati, in Spanish, in Portuguese, it's Hare Krishna. There's no translation. You go around the world, you say Hare Krishna. You don't need subtitles. So Hare Krishna is for everyone. Hare Krishna is international. And actually, that's what attracted me. I remember coming, I was just saying, I came to the temple for the first time. I think I went when I was 17 for a wedding, but I didn't think much. But I remember when I went, when I was 20, and I saw Guru Puja and I saw all these English devotees jumping up and down, I was like, wow. Wow, when Prabhupada came to Kenya, he said, I've not come here to preach to the Indians, because the devotees had organized some programs. He said, I did not come here to preach to the Indians. Where are the Africans? So the one thing that I find so amazing about ISKCON is that it's for everybody. It's for everyone and anyone. And that means no barriers. You come, you chant Hare Krishna, and you have a happy life. Hope that's okay, Richa. Hope that makes sense.
Jai, thank you so much. Please accept my humble obeisance.
Please accept
Thank
mine.
you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Avinash Prabhuji has a question. He's been patiently waiting.
Yes, I saw. Thank you, Avinash, for your patience.
Sorry, I don't have a question. I just have a comment.
Sure.
Prabhuji, you're very, very nice class, first of all. And secondly, the Prabhupada message about, I also wondered when I was going to the temple initially, they said, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya, Jaya Prabhupada. And when they were saying that, Jaya Prabhupada, I said, where is Krishna in this one? You know, Prabhupada, you know, why Prabhupada so much? And I was just wondering, and after, you know, when you are saying that, after a few years, you recognize the value of Prabhupada, actually. He is like, you know, when we have got an eyesight problem and we go and wear the new glasses. So Prabhupada is like that. We wear the glasses and we can see everything clearly through Prabhupada. And I don't know whether Eldoret and Kenya now they are thinking about this. We have got a Christmas marathon where we are distributing books of Prabhupada. I think next week we are starting. So Prabhupada's books are so important. I just wanted to make that comment. They're so important that this is the time you give a book to a person and that book will be received and you don't know how much that person will benefit. Quite a lots and lots of time, the person will benefit. But if one person won't benefit, somebody else will benefit from the books of Prabhupada. So I just wanted to make a comment about Prabhupada in general, that worshipping Prabhupada is next to nothing. He is the one who has actually made things very much easier for us. Otherwise, Gaudiya Parampara, 64 rounds, Prabhupada has made it easier to us, 16 rounds only. And we follow the regulative principles. So yeah, I just wanted to comment on that, and a very nice class, Prabhu. We should actually worship Prabhupada and help him in his journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Avinash. Very nice of you to share. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments?
Can I comment?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
My comment is after Avinash Prabhu saying about book distribution. Avinash Prabhu in Eldoret, Nakuru, Nairobi, Juja, everywhere we are focusing on how to maximize our book distribution. In fact, we just got permission in malls of Nakuru also for book distribution. In Eldoret, we have a very good mall that gives us permission for book distribution. So everywhere we are trying to maximize book distribution. Having said that, just this week, one boy turned up in Eldoret Center saying he was given a SSR in his university. He's finished his mechanical engineering and he was, I don't know whether I should say this, but he came here saying, I want good association to get over my weaknesses. He's with us this week, you know. So the books are so, like Prabhupada says, time bomb. And you can see it happening everywhere, how they are time bombs. You know, just because he said about Eldoret, we are all trying to maximize book distribution. Thank you, Haribol. I didn't attend most of Kanchanajba's class. I mean, Kirtika knows, don't announce it, but a good reason for not attending. But however, I couldn't resist hearing something. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Manti Ganga Mataji, even in the 70s, is following the footsteps of Prabhupada's example, still preaching, still far out, still preaching to everyone and anyone she sees. What an inspiration. And thank you so much, Mataji, for sharing the wonderful plans you have for book distribution in Kenya. Hare Krishna.
I need praise for Kanchanajba big time right now to carry on the mission.
Oh, you're such an inspiration. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any more questions or comments? Okay, if there are no more questions or comments, I hand over to Path Prabhuji. Path Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Please accept our humble obeisances. It's really nice class. You are told already. Everybody have the tendency to worship someone. If he is not worshipped the demigods, he worship the Raksha, the Yakshasa, who is captured by the mode of passion. Otherwise, he can worship the Yaksha, Bhuta Preta, like the ghost and the spirits who is in the ignorance. So the tendency that we are supposed to be worshipped. Similarly, like we are the nature to serve someone. If we are not serve God, we are serve the dog. And many situations is like that. But our tendency, our nature is to serve. Similarly, our tendency also, nature also to worship. But it is better we to supposed to be worshipped in the above of goodness, mode of above of the transcendent. We are in the transcendental stage, so we can understand Lord Krishna and we can worship them. But according to your classes today, it is better if you are not reached that place. Maybe we are not so fortunate, we are not so pious, we can't understand the Krishna and his mercy, so we can follow the footstep of our spiritual master. And according to his advice, we can worship him and also the supreme spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. So who show this path and who make whole world in a one home, and he giving opportunity to everyone to worship and go back to Godhead. It's really nice. So that it was introduced in every like in our scriptures and in our Purana and everything. Also the same importance we are giving to the Guru, like he's the living encyclopedia. It's not living God like that. Not God, but he's a representative God, so that is the same position. So thank you very much. And we hope it is very much informative to everyone. Also the same time, we thanks all the devotees who joined in this session. Also special thanks to the Kanchanajba Prabhu for your wonderful class and precious time. I request all the devotees, please unmute yourself and chant Hare Krishna mantra for glorification of His grace, Kanchanajba Prabhuji. Please join.
Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, kripa sindhu bhayevacha, patitanam pavanibhyo, Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha.
Srila Prabhupada
ki jai.
Jai.
Yeah.
His grace Kanchanajba Prabhu.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada
Jai.
ki jai. Sriman Eldoret ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.